Hello and welcome back to my bedroom slash home studio. Today we're gonna look into the production of Louvre, which TBH was the bane of my existence. This was like the worst process ever. It was horrible. Let me tell you all about it. Cue the intro. I wanted to write this song in the style of like the Brit soul neo-pop music that I grew up listening to. So like Adele, Duffy. I don't know if you guys know this song, but it's like, I heard you begging me for mercy. Yeah, why won't? It's like, that's the kind of music I grew up listening to. That, Paloma Faith. There's this incredible song by her called New York. And it was New York, New York. Or like early Adele. What else? Pixie Lot. There was, I don't know if you guys know any of these songs, but there was a, you'll have to cry me out. Anyways, all of these kind of style of music. I've always wanted to do a song in that style because it feels very close to me because it's kind of like the music that raised me in a way. And so for this song, I was like, okay, perfect. Let's write it already in that style. Let's use the kind of chord progression that you would use, like slightly jazzy with some seventh chords, maybe going from major to a minor, like all that kind of stuff. And I was writing the song, I was writing Louvre on the piano. It was going great. I was like, oh my God, this is going to be amazing. All I need to do now is sit down right here and just like mimic the production. And I got this. Little did I know how wrong I was, because this was a torturous process. So much so that I have 2 Logic sessions for this, which like never happens. I always start with one and I just keep editing there. This one, I lost the plot so much, I had to restart the whole thing. That's how bad it was. Let's look at it. So this is the original Logic session for the song. And at this point, I had already given it like a few good days of work. So it has gone through many iterations. So it was after this attempt that I realized that maybe I just need to reset the whole thing because of how lost I was. Like there's a bunch of like random tracks. You can see there's a lot of things that are muted because I was trying different things. But without any further ado, let me show you what I mean when I say it is a different song. We're going to start right here. It had an intro. I honestly don't remember what this sounds like. I haven't heard this since like November, so I'm a little scared. Okay. Oh, well, come on. Here we go. I've learned that there's an art to changing, that I'm the potter and the clay, I'm the canvas and the painter, the marble that I sculpt away. Every stroke of brush, every finger's touch is a rosy cheek of a love-struck flush, is a sunburnt wing of a heartbreak crush, is a rush, feel the rush, oh yeah. You're painting Frida Kahlo, hit the music's like Apollo, all the colors layered, your kaleidoscope. You're a sculptor of burning me, grow like branches that on Daphne turn and live and into art. Life's the Louvre and you're the Mona Lisa. Masterpieces take a lifetime, and patience is a peerless craft. Okay, let's start right here. I actually remember this idea vividly. I was like, maybe what's missing, because what was happening is I felt the song was too monotonous. Like the same beat was going over it and like nothing was really happening. I had a piano loop in there and it just kept doing the same thing over. Wasn't really doing much. And I remember that in a moment of weakness, I reverted back to my most basic instincts and was like, let's make it a fairy tale Disney strings orchestra chorus. And I was like, oh, maybe it'd be cool. It's like the verse and the pre were kind of like jazzy with like a beat, and then the chorus just drops the beat and is an orchestra. Wasn't a great idea. But here's the thing. I don't mind the production of the chorus. In fact, I think the song that comes after this one, after Louvre, will kind of have that style. But the whole song will be like that. Like here, it makes no sense. And then you can see in the kind of like the groove and what's happening in verse 2 is what ended up then actually being kind of the lead or like the inspiration for the final track. So this was the original one. It was a mess. And I'm not even gonna break this down for you guys because I think it's not worth your time. It's not that exciting. So let's close this off. Bloop. Oh, I still have this open. I Googled how to screen record. Anyways, let's go into the new one because this one we can actually talk about. This one is much more interesting. There we go. See? We love this. Not that many muted tracks. The only thing I muted here is some background vocals, but the colors are nicely colored. The tracks are color coded. We love that. So first thing I did when I scrapped this, I was like, okay, we need to speed it up. The original one felt so lethargic, like I was falling asleep. And if I'm falling asleep, who cares the most about this song more than anyone else in the world? And if I'm getting bored of it, yikes, it's not a good sign. So we revamped the whole thing. We got rid of the intro, the strings intro, and I added in some a fast chord loop. I think the problem with the original song and this song in general, why it took me so long, is I was doing the right things with the rhythm wise. I had a fast piano or I had a funky bass line, but I was doing them in the wrong instruments. And because this style of production, this subgenre was so new to me, I'd never done it before, I couldn't tell on the spot when a decision was good or not. And so sometimes when I go back and listen to that original demo, I'm like, oh, there's parts here that are good. If I had just honed in on that, I would have kind of eventually gotten to what I had gotten in the end. And it's interesting working in a new style, how that challenged me and how difficult it was to make decisions because I didn't know what was a good call and what not. So a lot of the things that I had originally, ignore, that I had originally were good, but just the wrong instruments we're doing that. We're gonna ignore whatever just happened. We're gonna listen to this fast piano chord that ended up being the foundation for the song. There we go. Faster, brighter, more exciting. And originally when I did this, I had just straightforward triads playing. So a third on top of each other, a root position of a chord. But then I did some inversions. I threw in some nice spicy seconds and it made it a little bit more interesting. So that was the basis of everything, the foundation. Then I was like, okay, after that, we need some sort of a bass, an interesting bass to go along with that. All of the songs that I was referencing, Olivia Dean or even Adele, Duffy, they all had cool, jazzy, very in the pocket bass lines. So that's what we came up with here. So this is my original MIDI bass. So all of these instruments are what I played by hand here on the piano. I don't normally use samples. I usually just like to play things out myself. And that's probably, I'm guessing it's my piano background that makes me want to do that. I want to know what notes I have. I don't like to work with audio, I like to work with MIDI. But so a lot of these were slightly different in the final version because Victor, the bassist, ended up slightly varying it when he was playing it live. But this was what I sent him, was this MIDI. And then we have a little kick. Actually, this kick makes no sense if you don't put the metronome in. I listened to a bunch of these tracks and I was trying to mimic some of them, and then a snare and the 2 and the 4. Again, a relatively unfamiliar pattern for me, so I was struggling a little bit. And then just a straightforward hi-hat. I'll get rid of the metronome. Now we feel the beat. So again, this was the foundational basis. The final drums in the song sound slightly different because again, Chris, the drummer, was recording them live, and the groove that he did was slightly more elaborate than this. So that's basically what is that's the foundation of the whole song, is this parts together. And that's just that. I was really excited about that bass, and I was like, oh, cool, that kind of brings things together. Then, since we're doing this whole jazz influence, I thought it would be cool if I added some little piano fills that feel kind of jazzy, like as if you were at a jazz club somewhere and you heard a pianist improvising a little bit. And those are these guys right here. They're higher up. I added a lot of reverb, so it really does sound like it's a live piano being played. And I'm gonna skip ahead here to verse 2 just because we're talking about this piano. I did more with this piano right here, and I basically just kind of improvised. This is not quantized, so it's not pulled to the beat. I left it exactly the way that it was because it felt more live, it felt more real, and it worked with the groove of the whole song. Here's what that was. So that's the original one from the first verse, second verse. So that was just like me improvising when I was basically looping the second verse and I played that. So that's my little like live jazz piano situation. Back to verse 1. You can see here at the top I have all of the sections marked. Just makes it so much easier to work. So in the first verse, we first have that like piano bass groove just to kind of introduce the song. And then I wanted to add some more depth to it. So the first thing that I did was like a low piano octave. Because the bass was relatively moving, I needed something on the low end that was more steady, more constant. Just long piano octaves. And then on top of that, I wanted to add in, where are they? Yes, pizzicato strings. So these are MIDI, and in the song as well, we kept them MIDI because they sound a little bit more synthy. I didn't want this to be played live. Some strings are played live on the song. This particular part is not. And it's just basically doubling the chords of the main piano. To just add a little bit more growth to the section. And the last thing I added were long piano chords because we have these fast ones, right here. And then I wanted something to to ground us a little bit more in terms of harmony. And that's why we have these just long chords, kind of acting as a synth in this case to kind of give us harmonic basis. And that's with everything together. I can add in that little scratch vocal as well. I'm the canvas and the painter. That's like the marble that I sculpted away. So you can hear that like this sounds pretty close to what the final version is. The only thing that's missing here that Victor, the bassist, ended up adding was also some like acoustic guitar that in his version is basically doubling kind of what the bass is doing. I asked him to add in some of that. And as you guys know from Timekeeper Secret, I don't know how to play guitar. MIDI guitar sucks. So I'm always just like, hey, Victor, can you add some of that? I have no idea how to do that. So that's all thanks to him. All right, now we go to the pre-chorus. And I think this was really the key to cracking this song because in the original version, what I did is I basically continued this same loop from the verse. This. And I was like, every stroke, brush, every finger touch is a rosy cheek of a love-struck flush. And it was just like kept going and going and going. And then when the chorus hit, nothing new happened. And it was so boring. There was no variation. And so then I was like, okay, we need to listen to some more songs because clearly I have no idea what to do here. And I don't know how I remembered, but I was like, doesn't the Future Nostalgia, like the Dua Lipa album, doesn't it have some Amy Winehouse inspired songs? So I searched that up, good in bed. And what that song does was what helped to crack this. And in the pre-chorus, instead of like keeping with this like groovy beat, it switches to like a 4 on the floor, super like pop production, almost like halftime. That kind of like slows it down and then allows the song to feel like it's breathing, something different happens. And then when the chorus hits, that original groovy beat feels refreshing and not repetitive. And so I was like, okay, perfect. I'll copy this like in my song. So what I did is instead of keeping with like the funky bass, I turned it into a long bass into the pre-chorus. So literally just a super low one too. And the kick, instead of doing like a funky pattern, it was slower. So it's like halftime, literally. And then we added a little snap and clap on the, 2 and 4, slightly less, like that. So that already feels like it's slowing everything down. On top of that, I actually kept the piano octaves from before, right? So now we're already feeling like it's slowing down from what we had before. I kept the long chords in the piano. Then I needed some synths. And they're basically just there to provide harmony or harmony chords. So it's this one. I felt the song was a little too acoustic-y before, so I needed to add some synths to make it more pop. So there's this original one and then this one that kind of sounds like vocals, singing, voices. And along with the beat, we now have this, where is it? Kick 2, right here. So now we have octaves, piano chords. But I was like, it feels a little too abrupt going from the part before, from this. Like something was missing to going into this. So I was like, what if I take some of what this little piano was doing and just mimic it in a different instrument? Which is when I did this. So it kind of does a similar melody to the piano in the verses, but it's in a synth, it's in a higher range, but it still keeps that same rhythm. So we don't lose sense of rhythm entirely in this pre-chorus. And then one last thing, and this was actually the only remnant from the original production, is these little violins and cellos loop. And this is what I actually had as the original loop for the song. Like this used to be, I've learned that there's an art to changing. Like it was kind of like that. It sounds weird now, but like with some other things layered. But I wanted to keep some of that. I thought it was kind of cool. So I put it here in the pre. I felt it made sense here because it was a little bit slower. And with the scratch vocal. Struck flush is a sunburn wind of a heartbreak crush is a rush. Feel the rush. And one last thing is that last chord progression in the pre-chorus. It goes from an E major to an E minor chord. So I wanted to somehow signal that, and this was again inspired by like that Brit pop neo soul productions of like mid 2010, or not 2010, mid 2000s, 2010s. Like this one in particular reminds me so much of Paloma Faith, New York. If you guys listen to that song, you'll hear there's a lot of stuff like that. So it's basically just a piano doing like an arpeggio, slow arpeggio, like tracing the notes in an E minor chord. There you go. And then it leads us into, yeah, there you go. And now we have our chorus. The chorus keeps the same beat and the bass from the verses. So if we pull that up, it's right here. So the rhythm of the bass is slightly more busy than in the... There you go. So that's our sort of like the rhythm section of the chorus. And then the next thing is we have this little clap doubling what the piano is doing. Just to give it some more energy, because in the verses we only have piano doing this. In the chorus I wanted to double it in another instrument to make it feel wider. We are doubling the long chords and the octaves from the previous parts of the song. You see I did one thing here though in the main octaves, the long octaves. And what I did is instead of just having one octave is I added like 2 octaves of this. Technically 3, 4, 5. Because, and I only did it on the very first note of the chorus, so that when the chorus hits, it feels massive. I don't think it needs it every time because it would be too abrupt, but it's just that very first time, like that's really, it really impacts the listener experience of like a chorus feeling like a chorus, you know, feeling big. Is oftentimes you will add extra volume help or like extra notes at the very beginning of it, on the very first beat of it, just so it feels more settled. And I think same here, I made these, so like the darkness of the green indicates how strong a note is, how loud it is. So here you can see that I did these, the first notes of the chorus louder. Again, just to make it feel more exciting, like, oh, now we're in the chorus. There we go. Then, and this was the key to the chorus here, is this is what I meant before when I said that in the original demos, I was doing the right things, but in the wrong instruments. So let's actually solo this guy. It's this chord. It's basically just playing chords on the upbeats, on the 2 and 4. And in the original production, I was doing this in a weird synthy clavichord, and it did not have the impact. But I didn't know that what the instrument was doing was correct. It's just I was using the wrong sound, and I didn't realize it until later when I was listening to more of that music. I was like, oh, maybe it should be like an electric guitar doing this. So now here's what we have. Just chords. And this again was something that was then live recorded by Victor. but in the context of everything. And then everything here. I feel like that, like all of the instruments coming together to do the bow, 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 is also like pretty signature for that type of music of that era. And here it's also, this is where we change from an E major chord to an E minor chord. And it's when we get to the E minor, all of the instruments are hitting that chord. There you go. What else is here? A couple of synth pads that I just, again, just for texture and width. We have this one. And one more here. That's all we have. And then the last thing is, that was probably like the last missing piece that I added in, was a synth lead that would be mimicking the melody of the vocal. So here's dun, 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 right here. Lead the muses like Apollo, all the colors layered up. Your sculpture upburning me, roll branches get above me, turn living into art. So it's just there to kind of help strengthen the melody. I didn't have anything else really playing the melody in this chorus, so I wanted something to subtly enforce it. And because it is a pretty busy one, you can see that it's not capturing all of the notes, right? It goes like in and out of it. I think if the melody had fewer notes in it, I would probably double the whole thing like I do in some songs. But here, because the melody is very dense, the vocal melody, I needed it to break it apart a little bit. So, now where is it? This one right here. Lead the muses. So it's only like on the big hooky parts of the melody. And that's our chorus. Then if we go into verse 2, I wanted a lot of this to feel like kind of artsy and jazzy, because I think it works well with the idea of a song like that is about the art of changing. And one other thing that I wanted to do here to kind of parallel the lyrics is to keep growing the song, to almost feel like you're creating something, like you're building something. That especially happens then in the bridge. In the second verse, I thought it'd be cool if we had like a little breakdown after that chorus and just like bass and vocal. This is what the original bass was like. Masterpieces take a lifetime. There you go. I've never done that before, and I thought it was kind of cool to try it out. Also, fun fact, this was recorded back in December, and I have this Christmas sweater that has like little jingle bells on it. And so if you listen just to the vocal, you can hear that as I was like moving and singing, you can hear the bells from my sweater. Wait. There's more. Mona Lisa. Masterpieces take a lifetime. There's like jingle bells throughout the entire the scratch vocal, and I think it's so funny. It like really captures the time that this was recorded in. But anyways, going into the verse, other than the piano fills that I showed you guys at the beginning, there's not a lot of new stuff in there, except for the fact that I added just more pizzicato chords. So just layers those. And then in the pre-chorus, we have a little counter melody that happens, and you guys know I love counter melodies. So this one is in piano and in glockenspiel. So I'll just play these two guys together. Piano's a little bit lower, glockenspiel has a slightly higher frequency. Again, inspired by that Paloma Faith song. Very much. So it's kind of going up and down the scale in a way. So if we hear it with the rest of the, like, or if we hear it with the lead vocal, you'll see how it like counters it. Oh, here we go. Brush, every finger's touch is a rosy cheek of a love-struck flush, is a sunburnt wing of a heartbreak crush, is a rush, feel the rush. Yeah, I thought it was kind of cool because I needed something to feel a bit more settled, because the vocal melody here is kind of fast. Do do doom 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 doom. So I didn't want to have instruments playing something super fast, which is why we then added in this, me added in this little piano and glockenspiel melody. Glockenspiel, I don't know, sorry. Let's see, and then let's talk about the bridge, because this one I had the idea of doing like this talking bridge, and I actually saw this like on a Pinterest post, the lyrics like, I live art, I breathe art, I myself. And I thought it'd be kind of cool to make it almost like little manifestations that you would read from someone's diary. And I thought it'd be cool if we did a little bit of a breakdown here. And so this is what it was originally like in my demo.
I live art, I breathe art.
Again, the jingle bells.
I myself, I am art. Artists will become what they create.
Too much more. Two more.
I live art, I breathe art. I myself, I am art.
So if this whole song is about like building and creating, I thought it'd be cool if we did like a super stripped breakdown and then kind of rebuild the song from there. And so at first it was just the beat and the bass. That's it. Adding in to kind of start building tension is this little strings tremolo chord. Then the piano melody. Just going back and forth between two notes. And then we get into our third chorus, which is kind of like the chorus where we start building things back up, our art piece. And this is where I think that influence from the original demo came in. I wanted to kind of like honor that in a way and do some of those Disney strings, but perhaps better contextualized. So I liked the idea, I liked how it sounded, but I wanted to change the approach to it. So I kept the beat. I didn't drop the beat at all. I kept the bass, which were the two things that I think went wrong with the original demo. But I did do like, or try to do like a lush strings production here. So we start with just pianos, the long chords, and the fast chords. Just straightforward. We're like trying to add in elements one by one, so it's not too abrupt. Now violins, harp, strings tremolo at the end. So first is just the let's break it down. First is just the piano. Then this little harp thingy, I first used this in To Tell You the Truth, and since then I've been trying to use it at least one more time because these songs will all end up on At the Bookstore album. So I want to make sure that there's production similarities between the songs, and I'll probably use this in at least one or two more of the songs of this year. But it's literally, I take my finger and I just whoop up the keyboard. I think in this case I did all white keys. I just whoop, and that's what this is. Like that. And I had that in the original demo, and it's like this little magical way to lead into the next section. There you go. And now, talking about strings, there is this one chorus string in the violins. So this is like the main melody one, and the other one, the other three parts are just there to build chords around that melody. And again, harmonizing with each other. And I usually add these in one by one. I start with one. In this case, this melody one was the last one that I added. Again, these two guys are harmonizing with each other. And last one, this one is in the cellos, and these strings, these sustained strings, were recorded live by Yoet. We have one last one, which is basically just a melody, another melody fill. There's one melody fill here in the violins, and this one is in the cellos. And we'll come up here. Da-da-dum, da-da-dum. There you go. Fun fact. These strings are actually in each of the choruses. So they are not new in the third chorus, but they feel new because all of a sudden all the surrounding things around it that made it feel more upbeat get stripped in our little last chorus, and this is the first time that I tried something like this was back in the 12 months project. I did this in the July song. If you know, there's like a strings breakdown in the third chorus, and it's exactly that. I didn't realize it was going to work. That was the first time I tried it and realized that's like a device I can use. Is I reused all of the strings from all of the previous choruses that felt like super upbeat and pop with the drums and the bass and the synths underneath it, but I just kept it as strings. And all of a sudden, it completely changed how the song sounded, because the way I write these strings, I want them to feel complete in and of themselves. You know, even if you strip everything else around it, it'll still sound pretty with just the vocal and these strings. Let's go a little bit back.
Kaleidoscope, you're a sculpture, a burning negro, like branches that undeftly turn and living into art. There's the Louvre and you're the Mona Lisa. La 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 la.
We have this little spiccato strings, da-da-dum, da-da-dum, matching the lead vocal. And then we also have, where are my fast strings? Let me find them, give me 1 second. Where are they? I'm so unorganized. I can't find them. Oh well, maybe I didn't have them here.
La 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 la. La 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 la. Oh, la 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 la. La 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 la.
There you go. Let's see, is there anything else that's like spicy and exciting? Oh yes, there is one more synth that I want to show you guys. And it's like the classic Anya synth. I feel like when I don't know what to do, I add one of these. Just let me find it. Where is it? It's this one right here. This, like, you can hear this in the second verse of, or like some variation of this in the second verse of the Many Lives of Juliet, When I Fall in Love. There's even something like this in Diver. Like, I love using something like this. So it's basically what it is I take a chord that is the tonic chord of whatever key we're in. And since this song is in F major, this is an F major chord. Let me double check that I'm not lying. Oh no, we're not in F major, we're in B flat major. Sorry, I messed that up. No, in B major. We're just in regular B major. So this is, however, a B major chord. We have F sharp, with the exception of this middle note. Instead of doing this note, this would be like a classic B major chord. Instead, we're moving and we're doing the second note in the scale. So it's F sharp, C sharp, B natural. It's a variation of the B major chord because that's the key we're in. I love that I didn't know that. I work on a lot of these guys, sorry. So basically, and all I do is I loop that do, the same 3 notes over and over and over and over and over. And why I like it is because it changes depending on what the chord is underneath it. Even though my synth is playing the same 3 notes over and over and over, it'll change the way it sounds because the harmony with the rest of the song changes. So like, let's just do that with the strings and you'll see what I mean. Give me 1 second. See what I mean? It's like super straightforward, but it kind of creates a cool effect. And again, it's harmonizing with the other parts of the song, which creates this effect. And I usually like to do this to like build some energy, to add some more fast elements. And this one desperately needed fast elements because the only really fast element I have were these piano chords. That's not fast enough. See? And then the last thing I did here in this song is I actually automated the volume. And a lot of these tracks, but especially in this one. If I pull that automation up, where is it? Where is my... sorry, give me 1 second. Right here. There it is. So I made it increase in loudness. And then I also made sure that let me close this, the velocity of the notes. So like the dynamics of them grow. So the darker they are, the louder they are. And I manually did like a little crescendo. So as you get through this last part of the song, it becomes more and more prominent and it kind of changes the section because the synth, instead of being in the background, kind of comes forward. Especially here. Then it drops. There you go. And that is the production of Louvre. It took me forever to do, but I think it taught me a lot about the, how would I say, the magic of simplicity. I think I'm like allergic to making my production simple, but this one, because of the style, it kind of forced me to work in a more optimal way. So a lot of the things that I would normally double in a bunch of instruments, I wasn't really doing here, which was good. I think I learned a lot about it, and learned a lot about not necessarily adding more things, but keeping the ideas that you have, only playing around with the sound that those melodies are played at. And I think that can make a big difference, which is a big lesson that I learned with this one. But yeah, drop your questions below. Let me know if this is like too chaotic. I definitely feel like a streamer when I do this. I watch, okay, this is a side note, we're gonna end after this, but there's this YouTuber that I watch all the time, Lil Simsy. She's a Sims YouTuber. And so like this, literally like this editing was inspired by her videos. I love watching them. And so every time I film one of these, I'm like, oh my God, like Lil Simsy, I'm a streamer. Which I'm not. But yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye! Bye, 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 bye.